How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to LOOTastic and to another Loot Fix video. Loot Fix is a series where we briefly talk about a game that I'm currently playing to get my addiction to loot quenched. These titles are games that I find interesting and have some form of loot in them, so much so that I feel like showing it off to you. Maybe you'll want to pick it up for your very own Loot Fix. Today, we are looking at Grim Dawn. Grim Dawn is most easily described as a Diablo clone. If you don't know what Diablo is and you are a loot lover, then you have taken a wrong turn somewhere in life, I'm just saying. Essentially, it's a top-down, hack-and-slash, loot-based game where you are strolling through huge areas, cleaving and spell-weaving your way through hordes of enemies, hoping to get that next super cool loot drop to buff up your character that much more. There is a story, but I'd be lying to you if I tried to explain Grim Dawn's storyline because I haven't paid attention to it since the beginning. Some people are into the story of loot-based games, but I solely jumped in for the loot aspect, and boy, let me tell you, I have not been let down so far. The loot in Grim Dawn is freaking amazing. The gameplay is amazing. The atmosphere is amazing. The customization, amazing. I'm running out of adjectives here. Grim Dawn is my kind of game. If you've played Diablo, you know what to expect. It has a lot of the same great mechanics and some new interesting ones as well. Let's talk about the loot in a bit more detail. Now, this is going to be more of an introduction to the loot mechanics because I've only played 20 hours of Grim Dawn. There is massive amounts of content I have yet to witness, massive amounts of loot I have yet to acquire, but this should give you an idea of what to expect in your first 20 hours, and it should also convince you that the $25 price tag on Grim Dawn's base game is worth it. Let's break down the gear slots. Here's the inventory menu in Grim Dawn. Slots include helmet, 2 rings, amulet, weapon, chest, pants, relic, belt, medal, boots, gloves, shoulders, and an offhand slot. You also have a secondary weapon you can switch to. Rarities that I've found so far in order include white, which is your regular or common rarity, yellow is magic, green is rare, and blue is epic. I know there is legendary items, but I haven't gotten any, no idea what color they are, and I don't know if that's all the rarities either. Like I said, 20 hours is all I've played so far. This could be like Borderlands 2 and have like 80 million rarities, I don't know. You get loot from everything: killing enemies, bosses, shrines, under rocks. There are tons of different chests, from weather chests to ornate strongboxes. Loot is everywhere. Common items have 0 or 1 bonus perks on them. Yellows have a few, greens have a few more than yellow, and blues usually come with a skill attached to them that you can use. Like my epic 2-handed mace, that comes with the Earth Ward skill, which increases my defense and health regeneration, which helps since my warrior-like class is always in the midst of battle for the most part. Blue items, epic items, seem to look a lot better visually than the lower rarities as well. Not sure if they have unique looks, but they do have more tailored names and cooler vibes to them. There are tons of different stats you can get on gear, anything from health bonuses, resistances, combat stat increases, extra elemental damage, block chance, pluses to main attributes, light radius, damage towards certain enemies, movement speed, your typical hack and slash-esque stat bonuses. There is also a relic slot, which I was just able to fill recently. See, in Grim Dawn, there is also a Forge Master. This guy can forge new gear for you if you have the right materials, of which there are loads of. You can combine materials to make new, more improved or polished ones. There are forging recipes you can find from random drops to learn how to forge certain weapons and gear. Relics are created this way. You can forge different relics, which have a light blue text color to them, and equip them on your character. Relics seem to have more powerful effects and give you a unique skill that is more situational. A recipe I just learned is for a relic that gives you a lot of buffs to pets, and gives you a skill to summon a Stormhound so it can benefit from those buffs. It seems like there are different tiers to relics as well, but I'm not 100% sure quite how that works yet. There is a lot going on with the Forge Master. I'll have to tinker with that mechanic a lot more as you can forge different potions and ointments as well to aid you in battle. Lots to look into. And I almost forgot, there are tons of components you can add to gear that basically work like sockets would in other games. You can equip gear with a wide variety of components for varying bonuses, and you can combine components to make better versions of them. There is also an inventor NPC in Grim Dawn who can take components out of gear, destroying either the item or the component, and he can destroy gear using dynamite to break them down into components. Moving on. Iron bits is the currency in Grim Dawn, and there are merchants to buy things from in the main town and ones you find out and about. I have yet to purchase anything, I just sell my unused equipment and move on. Usually in games like these, purchasing gear is pointless because you'll always find something better than what you bought in a few minutes. Iron bits are better used for forging and rebuilding bridges. There is a really interesting mechanic in Grim Dawn that adds a layer of Metroidvania style to it. While you're out slaying giant boars and gunslinging cult members, you'll come across areas you can't reach because boulders are in the way or a bridge is out. You can rebuild the bridge with scrap, which you find randomly, and iron bits. Then you can cross and see what's on the other side. Sometimes it's a cool place filled with enemies in golden ornate chests, and sometimes it's a cool place full of super high level enemies that you'll have to deal with once you level up a bit more. Also, if you find boulders blocking your path, you have to find dynamite to be able to clear the way. Interesting mechanics like this are always neat, something new to bring you back to an area rather than the reason just being to kill the monsters you've already killed 17 times. I've also recently found another use for dynamite. I was just casually slaying enemies in a gross looking cave and came across a chest called a treasure trove that was locked up with chains, and the only way to bust it open was with dynamite, and it had some pretty sweet epic loot in it. Another dope mechanic that I know almost nothing about, but I'll try to explain to you, is the reputation system in Grim Dawn. There are multiple factions in Grim Dawn. Doing quests for certain factions, helping the townsfolk, and so on, increases your reputation with them, but usually ends up decreasing another faction reputation that they pit you against in those quests. You have to be allies with some and enemies with others, essentially. The higher the reputation you have with factions, the more benefits you get, like better prices at the shops, or bounties that let you track down certain enemies for high iron bit rewards and more XP. Once again, a cool mechanic that I don't know how to fully explain to you quite yet, but there's a taste. Let's go back to the character screen for a second to talk about attributes and skills before we wrap up this loot fix video, and so I can get back to playing LOL. There are 3 main attributes in Grim Dawn: physique, cunning, and spirit. In simpler terms, those are basically strength, dexterity, and magic, but each are important for every class. It's just based on preference mostly, and if you're trying to get like a certain build going, which you should, because as I've learned in my 20-hour experience, this game is not like Diablo 3, where you can just run in willy-nilly and hope to win without thinking. I've died many a time acting like this is D3. It is not. There is some difficulty here at times, so try to build your character around some kind of playstyle. It will help. There are a lot of other character stats that you can look at and go in depth with, but we'll be here for days doing that, so I'm just going to move on to the character classes. Character classes are Soldier, Demolitionist, Oculist, Nightblade, Arcanist, and Shaman. Each come with their own skill trees, passive and active abilities, and have their own pros and cons. Soldier is more up close and personal with buffs and debuffs. Demolitionist is crazy with explosions and fire damage, and the Nightblade can utilize the shadows and dual wielding. You're able to choose one class once you hit level 1, and then choose a second class at level 10, which allows you to combine skill trees from 2 classes and make your own playstyle. I chose Soldier and Demolitionist for my 2, and I'm loving throwing Molotov cocktails and stun bombs before bull rushing into hordes of enemies for insane damage. The skills are good fun, and I'm not even halfway into one of the 6 class trees, and we haven't even talked about the devotion system yet. The devotion system in Grim Dawn is a different animal in of itself. There are shrines throughout the game that you can cleanse by either killing a high level group of enemies that it spawns, or by offering up a valuable item to it. Once you cleanse a shrine, you get a devotion point to spend on the devotion screen. Here, you'll find tons of constellations, and each star is an upgrade that you can obtain with 1 devotion point. Once you activate all the stars in one constellation, you get a bonus of some kind. For example, the first constellation I completed was the Falcon, which granted me the Falcon Swoop skill, which binds to one of the other skills that I use. So when I use the main skill that I've had equipped, the Falcon Swoop skill has a chance of activating, and when it does, a bunch of Falcons swoop down and deal damage. What's cool is that these devotion skills also level up, the more you have them equipped to an active skill. You actually level up the skills by being devoted to them. Pretty cool. Leveling them up increases their damage and usefulness. Really cool system here that has a ton of depth. Anyways, that does it for this loot fix video. I've rambled on long enough. Hopefully this gives you some insight as to what Grim Dawn is loot-wise and what you can expect from at least the first 20 hours. I'm having a blast, if that's not already clear. I just really couldn't wait to get this video out to you guys. Grim Dawn is available on Steam for $25. I'll leave a link to its Steam page in the description for you to check it out if you want. They also have an expansion out for it that I have yet to purchase, but there is that too if you are interested. If I end up getting through most of what Grim Dawn has to offer, I'll make a loot review video for it, so look out for that in the future possibly. As always, this video was brought to you by LOOTastic, where you get all the legendary loot news and info free of charge, no grind or limbs required. Like the video for +7 mana and subscribe for 2 tickets to the secret cow level. Until next time, happy looting.